What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/FatPeopleStories. Alright, so last time we read a story called Cousin Carnie, and here we have part 2 to Cousin Carnie called Cousin Carnie Part 2. Alright, here goes. As I started recently, this is a series about a long-lost cousin I didn't know, but fate positioned us to living in the same city far from the rest of the family, and I hoped it would work well. Spoiler alert, it didn't. So when I left off, she and I hadn't known each other too many months. We'd been working at the same hotel together, and I was learning what a horrible coworker she was. When she decided she wanted to switch shifts with me and push to working overnights, I didn't have to get even with her. She screwed herself over. I mentioned before that sometimes guests would want extra towels, etc. brought to their rooms. We got more of those requests on evening shifts rather than overnights. From late afternoon until morning, only one person would be working the desk, and all housekeeping and maintenance had left for the day. So desk clerk on duty would have to lock up the desk area and run them the items. But it was no big deal. I never had a problem with it. It wasn't a big hotel, and we could step away from the desk for a few minutes as needed, and our absence would be hardly noticed. Apparently, Carnie refused to bring items to guests and instead would always tell them they had to come to her because
I'm not allowed to leave the desk.
This led to a fair number of complaints, especially because I used to bring them items all the time, so they didn't believe the not allowed to leave the desk excuse. We had a lot of business travelers who were often repeat customers. Apparently, I'd spoiled them. You know, it had literally never occurred to me to tell a guest, "Come get the crap yourself, I ain't leaving the desk." But she had no problem doing that. It didn't take long for the manager to get somewhat fed up about the complaints, and she lectured Carnie about doing everything she could to accommodate the guests. Carnie begrudgingly started doing it, but absolutely refused to take anything to guests on the second floor. There was no elevator because she claimed to have bad knees and have trouble with stairs. Guests on the second floor were not happy that she wouldn't provide delivery service, so some complaints continued. The evening desk clerk was also supposed to lock up the outdoor pool area at 10 p.m. It might have been 9 p.m. during the week, but in the beginning, she simply refused to do it, using the can't leave the desk excuse. So then I would have to do it when I arrived at 11 p.m. every night, and I got to kick people out of the pool. So there were also some complaints from other guests about noisy people in the pool area after 9 or 10 p.m. After the manager told Carnie she couldn't use the can't leave the desk excuse anymore, she would sometimes lock up the pool area, but not always. I suspected the night she didn't lock it up were the nights that people were there because she was too timid to kick people out. And so the complaints about loud people by the pool after 10 p.m. continued as well. Worse, Carnie was really bad with computers. The cheap computer system this hotel used was an old DOS-based system. It was fairly simple to learn and use, and she'd been working there longer than I had. You'd think she'd know what she was doing, but sadly, no. She was always messing things up. Her excuse was,
"Well, I'm just not good with computers."
I get that not everyone is great with computers, but it was part of her job to learn this very basic program. I'm sure she'd made some of these mistakes when she'd been working overnights too, but once she was working evening shift, there were more opportunities for her to make mistakes. And then her mistakes would screw up my job. One night, I checked someone into a room at about 1 a.m., only to have the person walk into the room and find someone else sleeping in that room. Then I had two very irate guests screaming at me, one on the phone and one in my face. Turns out, Carnie had checked someone into room 204, but put them in the computer as room 206, so that room 204 looked like an available room when I went to check the next guest in, and I sent him to the wrong room. Not cool. Other times, she would move someone from one room to another. say the AC wasn't working in room 102, and then not mark room 102 as out of order or as dirty. Guests always mess up the bed before deciding the room is unacceptable. So then I check the next guest into room 102 and an angry customer yelling at me that the room I checked them into looked like someone had been sleeping in it already, or that the AC's not working and how dare I not know what I'm doing. Even if I wanted to cover up for her, I didn't. I had to let the manager know she'd likely be getting complaints from those guests in the morning. The best part, and more relevant to the sub, one day there was a notice posted that employees could no longer eat food at the desk or in the breakfast area or anywhere in view of guests. There really wasn't a break room, but there was an area behind the front desk wall where the fridge and freezer were, where we would prepare the breakfast items for the morning breakfast buffet, and we were told we could eat our meals in that area as long as we followed typical food handling rules. However, there wasn't a table or any place to sit in that area. It didn't bother me much because I didn't eat much on my shift. I usually ate before and after work. Occasionally I'd have a little snack, but if I had to go back into that area to eat my snack, so be it. It was mildly inconvenient, but I didn't see a point in making a fuss. Carnie fussed and fussed. She said it was terribly unfair because there was nowhere to sit while eating, and she was convinced that it's bad for you to stand while eating, like unhealthy, which I found hilarious because she ate nothing but fast food. So it's not like health was her number one concern when it came to meal times. She said she couldn't eat before her shift because she had to come to work directly from her other job. So she had to eat while at work and felt persecuted by the new rule. Out of morbid curiosity, one morning when the manager came in, I asked her, "Okay, what's with the new rule anyway?" I was sure it would have something to do with Carnie and was not disappointed. Apparently, the manager had shown up one evening, or maybe he was just going over the security footage. He didn't come by during second or third shift, and according to the manager, had seen Carnie and her husband eating in the breakfast area. The owner was disgusted by their terrible table manners and never wanted a guest to see that. So, because they apparently ate like hogs at a trough, all of us were exiled to the back room to eat. I never once ate a meal with Carnie, so I can't confirm her table habits. So apparently, the owner and management had a few problems with her. Finally, one afternoon, I got a call at 2:30 p.m. asking if I could be at work at 3 p.m. to work the evening shift instead of my usual overnight shift. And while mildly irritated, I didn't have any other plans, so I said yes. I figured Carnie had called out of work, which she did from time to time, and then they'd get the relief overnight gal to cover my overnight shift. I was told it was okay if I was a few minutes late, what with the short notice and all. When I arrived, there was a lot going on in the lobby, as a couple of maintenance people were fixing something and there was a group of guests lingering around waiting to be checked in. I slipped by everyone and went around to behind the desk where the manager was checking the group in. When they had their room keys, some of them were still milling about near the desk talking before heading to their rooms. The manager turned to me and thanked me for coming in and said,
We had to fire Carnie when she came in, you know.
Between all the screw-ups with the computer, arriving late, often enough to become a problem because of rushing from her other job to this one, the customer complaints, the laziness, and apparently the fact that the owner couldn't get over how gross her eating habits were, to this day, I wish I'd begged the manager to show me the video, since I'm dying of curiosity to know if he was overreacting or if it was really that bad. They just decided she was too much trouble to keep. It was a small business, so most worker protections don't apply. They could fire her for just about any reason anyway. Part of me felt bad for her, but part of me was relieved, so I was really frustrated with her too at that point. So I went to check the laundry, and when I got back to the desk, the manager said,
I don't know what to do about Carnie.
Confused, I didn't know what she meant. I said, Well, you fired her, so what else is there to do, right? And she replied,
Yes, but she won't leave. She's still sitting over there crying and I don't know what to do.
I hadn't seen her in the lobby area on the sofa crying because of the people and commotion in the lobby, but there she was, sobbing on the sofa. Now I was torn. I sort of thought she deserved it, but she was still a friend and relative, so I went over and tried to comfort her. The group was drifting out of the lobby finally, so I asked her what happened, and I told her how sorry I was. She just kept sobbing.
I don't understand. I don't understand. They won't explain to me why they did this.
I was flabbergasted. Did the manager really not give her a reason? Or had she, and Carnie just couldn't process it? And what was I supposed to say? Well, Carnie, I mean, you were terrible at your job. Now it was my turn to be too cowardly, so I didn't say it. Instead, I said, I know this is really unfair. She agreed, saying she'd worked there for 2 years. If they had a problem, they should have said something sooner.
This is just like when I was fired from Holiday Inn.
She cried. Oh, they fired you too, huh? Well, now I feel less bad. I was half tempted to call Holiday Inn and get the scoop on how bad she'd been over there. By that point, I'd gotten sick of the graveyard shifts, so I'd been looking for new jobs and left the hotel not long after that when I found a better job in my career field. But my Carnie stories were only beginning. Okay, I'm really liking this Carnie series so far, and there's plenty more, so sit tight, folks. Like I said, there's more. I mean, maybe not this episode, but next episode. Alright, this story's called Former Fatty Slowly Pulls Her Boyfriend Away from Unhealthy Lifestyle. So, I'm the former fatty. I've gone over the details, but I had severe depression that hit me from, say, 2013 to 2018, and it resulted in my weight ballooning up to 350 pounds. Since then, I've been working it off. I'm down to 213 pounds and feeling a million times better for it. Good job. But I'm not alone. I've had my boyfriend, and it's taken a bit more work to get him to break some of those bad habits that he joined me with. When I started getting better, it all started with my new job. We only had one car between the two of us, and since my job was just a 30-minute walk from where we lived, it was easier for me to walk to work and he can take the car. Those 30-minute walks started me down a really great path. All that fresh air and exercise, it helped me wake up and realize how I had let myself go. And I wanted to get him to join me, but it hasn't always been an easy fight. My job, I got off work at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but had a much earlier shift and got off about 2:30. Every day when I got home from work, I would always find a telltale cup from a fast food place he stopped at on the way home. It also wasn't uncommon for him to have a big bag of chocolate candy in his backpack, and he kept buying tub after tub after tub of ice cream. I got home and wanted to go to the gym. I wanted him to come with me, but he had already gone to sleep, and waking him up would be a difficult fight that I didn't want to deal with. So I'd go exercise alone. I'd get home and get something light for me to eat, maybe a salad or a bowl of soup or something. Suddenly, he would wake up and expect me to make enough food for both of us. I can't blame him for wanting us to eat together, but he was never satisfied with the low-calorie, healthy foods I was eating. But he would eat if I found something that both of us could work with. Rice casserole is a decently healthy but filling dinner. Eventually, I noticed not only the physical changes from all that hard work, but I also noticed the psychological changes. I was happier, more energetic, and just generally hyped. He was getting upset with me. He said it was because I was becoming self-absorbed and because I was rubbing his face in it that he was still fat. I tried to get him to eat healthier, healthy with me, but if we ever went somewhere, like to visit family a couple hours away, he just had to get food to eat on the road trip. Can't drive for 2 hours without a big bag of beef jerky and a large soda. If I ever dared to say I wasn't really hungry or I didn't want fast food, he would start telling me he's feeling dizzy and needs to fix his blood sugar. This is despite the fact that he's mentioned this problem to multiple doctors who have all told him no, he doesn't have any problems with his blood sugar. It can be so awkward to sit there in the middle of a McDonald's and just watch him eat while I'm sitting there with maybe just a diet soda. Finally, we had to split up for a while. His depression got too bad for him to even hold down a job or look for a new one. But even with free time, he wasn't going to the gym. And what money he did have saved still had a nasty habit of going to junk food. So worrying about his unstable emotional state and lack of finances, I moved out into a different complex next door. The good news is that he finally started getting his crap together after I moved out. We stayed friends to see how things would work out. He found a new job. In fact, for a while, he was working 2 jobs, even if one of them was only a part-time job at a grocery store. When he was having issues with finances, I pointed out how many different fast food cups I've seen at his place and mentioned that he'd be doing better on money if he didn't get those. He reluctantly agreed, but he hasn't been eating fast food since then. He's feeling better. He's saying his pants are starting to feel looser. He's starting to go to the gym with me. He's still not as dedicated or as hardworking as I am on losing weight and getting in shape, but he's finally making some positive changes. What's that called? Like baptism by fire or something like that? I mean, maybe not directly, but when you leave the safety and comfort of a relationship like that, it can be kind of jarring. And it can sort of act like a boot in the ass to be like, hey, get your ass up and do something, man. It can be a real influencer of change, which is a good thing. Anyway, OP, good job on bettering yourself and helping your, ex-boyfriend get better.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.